folks, this is all the fruit. Here I want to do a video about foraging in early April in the city of Heidelberg. Video is gonna be quite shaky because I'll film part of it from the bike. I hope you'll forgive me this. Well, I wasn't here in the winter, but the winter was quite harsh. I saw that stuff like fuchsia and bananas have frozen to the grounds. Fuchsias didn't freeze to the grounds around here the last couple years, and even the bananas had surviving stems and even some surviving leaves. This year maybe we'll see some bananas around here and I can show it to you. Let's start here in this little city park, which has a very young growth of really exotic trees. Feoa or Fejoa or pineapple guava. Last year we had a great harvest, so great that I never tasted the ones here. Actually, I didn't like the taste of the, well, I collected big bags full of fruits in another park, but I didn't like the taste so much. I should have tried those here. There are considerable differences between the different varieties. It's not a very frost hardy plant. It seems that the leaves got slightly damaged, but yeah, it shrugged off this winter without any trouble. Here this one died, but I don't think the winter is responsible. Those here don't look too good either, but last summer was very dry, although this plant grows in the Mediterranean, so I don't know. What do you think, folks? Did the winter damage the guavas or the hot summer? They don't look as good as they looked last year, especially this one here under the old horse chestnut. But yeah, I'm not a specialist for this plant, so tell me. This one in the background also doesn't look very good. Another really exotic fruit tree around here, the kaki. This one also had a lot of fruits last year. Here you can still see the stalks. However, yeah, it was a little bit late for me to harvest them. When I left they were still not completely ripe, so I don't know their taste. You can get quite good kakis around here. You can also get quite bad kakis. I guess after the incredibly hot and dry summer of last year, they must have been really tasty. As you can see, it's fruiting a lot. No visible frost damage. We have varieties which are quite well adapted to the modern German winters. Yeah, no big damage here, but also nothing to forage. Couple branches have died, but those are inside the tree, so they probably died rather from lack of light. Another very exotic tree, however it's not frost tender at all, is the pawpaw, Asimina triloba, the only really hardy Anonaceae which has become a fruit tree. Yeah, it's very small, but it's doing well. Look at all those buds here which will turn into beautiful flowers soon. Well, right now I don't seem to be able to really focus on them. Okay, anyways, those are no things we can forage. Not many fruits in this German spring. 2 or 3 years ago we had a lot of fruits which had survived the winter. Not this time. Very few fruits have survived the winter and very few fruits are coming up now. We will have more fruits towards the end of May or in mid-June. So let's eat flowers. Prunus avium, bird cherry flowers. Or here, ornamental cherry flowers. They taste pretty much the same. The ornamental cherries were grafted on a bird cherry, and here a powerful bird cherry branch has snuck past the ornamental cherries. Actually several powerful bird cherry branches and competing with them. What have we got here? Beets. How did those beets make it here? Yeah, those seem to be some sort of beets. Sour. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe those are no beets. I guess they have been brought here with some soil or seed mixture. You could also eat the thistle, mostly the tender part which is still in the ground, but they all rip off above the ground. Still edible. The flowers of the stingless nettle are also good. You can suck nectar out of them or eat the whole flowers. Well, here is the stinging nettle. You should really roll them between your fingers, because then your fingers will get stung and not your tongue. They are quite tasty but very pulpy and hairy and spiny. Aliaria petulata, the garlic mustard, a mustard which tastes like garlic. Still very tender. And here, Reinotria, a sorrel and rhubarb relative. Quite tasty but very invasive. Also full of oxalates, so if you are susceptible towards oxalates, hands off. You can eat the young leaves of most native trees, like here the lime or linden tree. Not much taste, but that can be good. A lot of the greens you can forage actually too tasty and have too many different nutrients for modern people. So greens which are more or less tasteless are a good addition. The Ranunculus vicaria is still going strong because of the cold weeks, the two pretty cold weeks. If we had a hot April here in the sun, it would be already drying up. When we still had real winters in Germany, this was the first spring greens. That's why it's called Schaboxkraut or scurvy wheat in German. It was the first greens in spring rich in vitamin C which prevented scurvy. Forgot the name of this ornamental, if you can tell me. Nah, not sure. Laurel cherry. This one doesn't have very showy flowers. Strange. This is a variety with very small petals. Let's try it. Quite bitter. With rosacea, bitter means cyanic acid. So don't eat too much of it. You will die. Mahonia. I think this should be Japonica or Beali. Those are two very similar species. One of the very plants which you can find with ripe fruit. However, it's a close relative of the Oregon grape. And just like Oregon grape, you should boil it before consumption. It's tasty, it's ripe, it's sour. But you eat too much, you start puking and pooping. I saw something red, yes. A couple of the Okuba berries. I think Okuba is toxic, so that I'm not gonna eat it now. I think I should check it and then maybe make a video about it. Did a quick check. The Okuba leaves are edible. I guess the very young leaf sprouts like those here. However, they are toxic at the same time, so they are being used just as an emergency food. Nobody says that the fruits are edible, so don't eat them. One thing which is quickly disappearing, too quickly disappearing each and every year, are the wonderful magnolia flowers. Not only are they the most spectacular flowers you can find on trees in Germany, they are also edible and quite tasty. fresh and hot and gingery. You can eat the young rose leaves, of course. Not many fruits now, so we'll have to eat mostly greens and flowers. We could eat the mustard, but here right next to the trash I don't want to do it. It is a cardamine species. And right next to it a dandelion, which is also edible. No, this is not edible. Let's see. Nothing else edible around here. Lilac, no, not edible. Ferns, not edible. This stuff, Chelidonium maius, is not edible. It's toxic. It has this yellow to orange sap. If something has white sap, stay away from it. But if it has yellow or orange sap, it will be even more toxic. It's actually so toxic that you put the sap on your skin to destroy warts. Nice medicinal plant, but just don't eat it. Figs and kiwi berries, and also the currant. I don't know what this is, looks very interesting. I think this could also be something edible. Wonderful stuff, but not ripe yet. But here we have something. I still haven't seen edible seeds on a domestic pine in Germany. However, I never give up hope. Last summer was very hot, so stuff which doesn't ripen usually could have ripened. However, I don't see any cones on this one, neither on this one, and the second one is too far away for me anyways. Look at this huge blueberry hedge. Those are some of the new American hybrids, not native blueberries, which share more or less the name with the city of Heidelberg. Interesting. I will check those blueberries in summer or autumn. I want some fruits. By the way, folks, if you haven't noticed from the cars and the mansions, we are here in the fanciest part of Heidelberg, actually the street where I'm walking right now or pushing my bike. Used to be the second wealthiest street in Germany at some time, and I think still is the wealthiest street in Heidelberg. Doesn't look as wealthy as streets in some other countries. The Germans more or less hide their wealth, but rich people, they like to grow fancy stuff, so we might eat some unusual things here. Locking my bike and walking up the fancy Philosophers path, although I will not make it to the part where most of the tourists are headed. I will stay in the area with the mansions and gardens. Here's some tree hazel. It's from Southeast Europe, but it's spreading in Germany. The leaves are theoretically edible, but so hairy that it's not fun to eat them. This here, if you think this is a rose, think again. It looks like a rose, but it's a camellia, close relative of tea. You can theoretically eat the flowers, but they are bitter. Forsythia. As kids we were told it's toxic, but no, actually. The flowers are edible. A bit bitter, but edible. A beech tree. The young leaves are edible. The beech nuts, close relative of chestnuts, used to be an important famine food, especially an important source of oil. However, they ripened in autumn. Now they are rotten. The biggest treat the beech can offer in spring are the young seedlings. Getting tough already. When they're young, they taste like sorrel. The good flavor is still here. It's getting too tough. I will not try the dandelions. My mother used to like them. I don't. They are too bitter for me. Here is a small garden with beehives. Oregon grape. edible fruits, but you should cook them first. At least that's what most people say. Please tell me your experience with Oregon grapes. Can you eat them raw? Let's see. The flowers are sour and slightly bitter. Not too bad. Okay for spring foraging. Be careful with all those ornamental spring flowers. A lot of them are toxic. Not sure about this one. However, the Arum maculatum here in the background, the stuff with the big shiny leaves, is definitely deadly. Holly, close relative of mate tea. Actually, well, the berries are quite toxic for humans, but edible for birds, but they're not very popular with birds. I always say there are two strategies when a plant produces those. Well, when a plant produces berries or fruits, either they are juicy and very popular with the birds and they eat them fast, or they are tough and so unpopular that they are still hanging on the tree after half a year. Have to be careful with the bees. Don't want to get stung. I hope I can find something more special to forage in this garden. Tulips are toxic, but you can still eat them, but because they are toxic, probably they also don't taste so good. They are mostly being used as a famine food. I want to make a video about them because Holland during World War II kind of survived on them. Also here maple, Aza pseudoplatanus, the mountain maple as the Germans call it. Grows quite high in the mountains, that's why it's being used a lot. It's actually the only maple I'm aware of in Central Europe that's being used as a sugar maple. It's being said that most parts of the maples are edible and can be used in a survival situation. But for me, they are too bitter. Funny that sweet maple syrup comes from such a bitter plant. Here we have another important survival plant, very important in Germany. While the Dutch survived mostly on tulips, the Germans survived mostly on this here. What was it? The Latin name is Egopodium podagraria. Seems to be good against gout. What was the German name? No, we are not doing another bee video. No, the one in Borneo was enough. I'm in a dead end here on this little pavilion. I have to go back through the bees. Well, what I wanted to say, the Egopodium podagraria, a lot of the old Germans, most of them are dead now, are telling me that after World War II they had almost nothing to eat except for this thing. It's a wheat, it's pretty much impossible to kill it. So they were eating it every day. Tastes like carrot and parsley, but if you eat only carrot and parsley every day, it's a little bit too much. A couple of those rose hips might still be good, but they are all too far for me to reach. Okay, back through the bees. Only a couple of them attacked me, and probably still as a sort of confusion. Oh, this is something you can forage in the German spring. A pineapple. She's been lying here for quite some time. Nah, leaving it for the beekeeper. Daisies. Well, don't eat them around the dog poo. Eat them a little bit further away. Every part of the daisy is edible. Flowers are especially good. Bah. Phew, those are already too old. Tasting disgusting. When they're younger, they taste very good. Violets are also edible and tasty. Nice. Well, I saw a plantago somewhere. It's also edible and tasty. Now I cannot find it. Here it is. Oh, also edible and tasty. Well, quite tough already. And here the stuff. The Germans call it clove root because the root was used as a substitute for cloves in older times. Cloves were extremely expensive, more expensive than gold. So less wealthy people would eat the root of this thing. But I've never tried it. I've never learned how to prepare it. Rumex obtusifolius, one of the bitter species, not good. Here we have a really great treat, the burr leek, the most important wild garlic in Germany and in large parts of temperate Europe. Up the river there is even a town which has an annual burr leek festival with dozens of burr leek recipes, including burr leek ice cream, which I don't know if I really want to try. Burr leek is a really prolific wild garlic. You can have areas where square miles are covered with this stuff. Those areas, people used to collect it with horse carts and ox carts and export it to other areas which don't have so much of it. In Heidelberg there is only one place with a big natural population in a nature reserve, but it grows in a lot of old gardens, like inside this Institute for Physics here. Glechoma hederacea, another tasty spring green. A little bit too aromatic, especially now. Funny. Already too old, gets too much sun and drought. Yeah, you can eat it, but making a salad or a soup just from this will be a little bit too tasty. The taste will be too strong, so better mix it with milder stuff. That's why it's good to have tasteless greens like the lime tree leaves. Well, here we have Carpinus petulus. Germans call it the white beech, but it's not closely related to the beech. More closely related to the hazelnut. The greens are still edible. The fruits aren't really, but already a little bit tough. Let's try those plum flowers. Names to is feral plum. Taste is okay, but nothing special. This is a very special illegal American grapevine. Some of the higher up branches already have their young leaves. Actually, the young greens are quite tasty. Still very small. You would wait till they get bigger. But yeah, nice and tasty, those things. Here an exotic maple from the US. I've even forgot the name. It's the one with 3 leaves. Bitter, but it has a nice mustardy flavor. Parthenopsis, or the Virginia creeper, is a close relative of grape wines, but the grapes are too rich in oxalates and not edible. Neither are the greens. So you think, what a useless plant. Well, it's an ornamental around here, but it can also be useful. In East Asia there is a species. They cut it in spring and it produces tons of sugary syrup, just like sugar maple. Actually, I saw a really big one they cut here in Heidelberg 2 years ago, and the whole road was covered with puddles of a liquid which was foaming white and producing white residue. So yeah, they produce an extreme amount of this sugary syrup, and I guess you can make a lot of sugar of it, especially in survival situations. I think nowadays it's a niche product because the parts of East Asia that used to make it also have access to the world market now. Finally, Zamoros hips I can reach, barely. Winter was not too gentle on them this year. Tasty. Mostly sour, but also pretty sweet. Just don't eat the itching powder around the seeds. Those little shiny things are spiny hairs you will feel inside your mouth for hours. One of the few really reliable fruit plants each month of the year is Cotoneaster horizontalis. Here a very small area with just a few little fruits. They even taste okay. Like a very boring, very tiny apple. You can collect hundreds or even thousands of them somewhere. They are very much inferior to apples or to other berries, but as I said, they can grow 12 months of the year. There are cotoneasters which grow huge amounts of berries, but unfortunately those are bitter, while those here are quite tasty and acceptable. Euphorbia karak, yes, huge Mediterranean euphorbia, well, huge for European standards, which is becoming naturalized very locally. A lot of euphorbs have a lot of nectar. Not this one right now. And they are basically toxic, so don't eat any fruits, flowers, leaves or stems or anything else of those plants. They might be beautiful, they might be popular with bees, but you admire them from a distance. Yucca, fruits, flowers and young buds are edible, and you can make soap from the roots, but each part is quite bitter. Soap usually equals saponins. Here we have lavender. The leaves are not as aromatic as the flowers, but still quite aromatic. What are they using the greenhouse for? Not for plants, I'm sure. I'm sure they're using it for people. A juniper here. Not sure which one. A lot of them are quite toxic, so stay away from it. Beautiful gardens on the Philosophers path. You are always very lucky if you gain access to them. Ultra cold atoms BSCB crossover. I don't know that plant, man. We are here inside an Institute of Physics, by the way. Cosmon quintessence. Are they using the same plant identifiers as me? I would say that this is a rose and this is another rose. And both of them are edible. However, I don't know if I should eat ultra cold atoms. Not bad, those atoms. Atoms are not enough to satisfy me. I need more substantial food. Stay away from this stuff, folks. Heracleum mantegazzianum from East Asia is so toxic, phototoxic. You touch it and you go at the sun, you get sunburn. It's so phototoxic that in Germany there is a law that you have to remove it from your property. This is the native Heracleum spondylium, but it's still bad enough. But yeah, stay away from it. Primula. Those are protected native flowers, although most of them in those gardens are surely planted. That's still nice to see them. They might be edible, but we are not eating protected plants here. Figs. I totally approve of planting figs. Guess those had some fruits last year. Should remember this little tree or shrub or cluster or whatever. Terra. What was the English name? Those things come from North America And they used to be an important vegetable, especially the roots. The roots turn pink when you boil them. Used to be an important vegetable in Europe centuries ago, but now it's mostly a weed. And it's all established that they're actually new species which are being created here in Europe through hybridization and mutation. New wild species created in the wild, not by humans. I've never actually eaten it, but it's supposed to be a very nutritious and very productive wild plant. Right now would still be the right time to rip it off. Well, let's try it. It's an invasive weed after all. Okay, it didn't work. Don't even know if you can eat the leaves. The big treat is actually the big root. Are those things safe to eat? Neutrino mass? Marie Curie vermouth. Well, okay. At least it's a rose. It might be named after a physicist, but it's a rose. So what about the neutrino mass? Am I allowed to eat this or not? Quantum gravity. Nah, not gonna eat this. This rose is much better. Look, I don't know if it's because it's here on this south-facing wall, but most of the hips still in prime condition. Tastes basically like cranberries, but it's very hard not to get the itching powder. The right cranberries, delicious. But why the itching powder? The stuff was delicious. And the flesh is thin enough to dry on the stem. Actually, one way to avoid the itching powder would be to make tea from them, or you boil them a bit longer. You can make jam, rosehip jam. It's very popular in Eastern Europe. Here in the West, it's so expensive you can hardly afford it. The Philosopher's spot is an extremely specific microclimate. Here, as you can see, the first roses already starting to flower. Yeah, start of April is not too early for this, but this year, as I said, was quite cold. Even the cherries have not started flowering properly. Well, at least we found some good rosehips in this garden, and a lot of quantum energy and neutrino stars and what else. Wherever I look, I see dandelion. Okay, I'll eat it. Yeah, not even too bitter. Give it away. Some palm fruits we can forage. It's the most common palm in Germany. Well, only in very mild parts of Germany. Trachycarpus fortunei from the Himalayas. As you can see, it's covered with huge bunches of those fruits, which are quite edible. I don't know if they are still good enough to eat. They're not going in there. Those rich people, they kind of are opposed to trespassing. Here you see how crazy the microclimate is. Feral lavender, a Mediterranean plant. This one was planted and then it spread here into the cracks of the wall, especially along the base of the wall. Here you can also find feral Mediterranean evergreen oak, feral rosemary, a lot of other feral Mediterranean things. And those palms, you might think they are young because they're being supported, but they've been here for decades. So for decades the climate here was good enough to grow palms. Look how tall they grow. It's very tall for Germany. We had wild garlic, Now we have the other most important allium for foraging here in Germany. It's the wild onion, or, well, the German name literally translates to vineyard leek, because they call all those alliums leeks. I call it an onion because the leaves are tubes. It's a bit tougher than the bird leek. It also grows in other areas, in more sunny, dry areas, like here under the trees. It will get quite shady in summer, but now it's quite sunny, and here on top of this pseudo fortress like walls, it's so dry that, as you can see, it grows here in many plants. I think it's Allium vineale, but it could also be some feral ornamental leek. As you can see here again, some lavender is growing feral. Here, Plantago lanceolata, also an edible green. You boil it, it tastes like mushrooms, they say. You can also eat the flowers. You can also eat those fabaceae here. What you shouldn't eat is the spurge and the zenezio. I think the fabaceae is the medicago. Nice flavor, but already getting a bit bitter. Here's some Mediterranean herbs, rosemary and sage. Well, this is sagebrush, actually, the Mediterranean sagebrush, which is very popular as a spice. Also those flowers, Mediterranean muscari. In Italy, where they dig them out by the ton from fields where they grow more or less as weeds, they pickle them. They're like tiny silver onions, but tasteless. But when you pickle them in something salty and sour, they acquire a lot of taste, and actually quite popular, like little silver onions pickled, but without the onion taste. Don't know if this stuff is edible, Rhodo. Some beauty berries, Calicarpa americana, growing in this rich house. They are also edible, but I find them a tiny bit bitter. Not filming them for too long, because those guys might call the cops. Somebody looking like me filming a house like theirs. Fragaria vesca. The wild European forest strawberry. It's crazy that it grows in such a hot and sunny microclimate on top of a wall, but here it grows in the shade of a cherry plum. And this is how it spreads, by those tendrils which have little plants. The leaves are edible. Tasteless and tough. Can also be used to make tea. Let's check the cherry plum. Most plums taste horrible while unripe. The cherry plum is an exception. The fruit actually tastes very well when it's unripe. However, those are still too young. Now I let it drop. Let's find another one. Those are still too young. Firstly, they are too small to get enough bulk, and secondly, the seed is so soft you'll bite through it and get the bitterness from the seed. Beech. Well, no, is it beech? Betula? No, beech was fagus. Beech, birch. Quite aromatic, also kind of edible. You can also tap it for birch water, which has a lot less sugar content than maple sap. So it's not worth fermenting it. The Russians do it in areas where maples don't grow. It's better to just drink the water. It's a good source of minerals and vitamins and other stuff in spring. I hope there would be more here, but there is just ivy here. Ivy fruits appear at very unusual times. Actually, they should still be some around, but like all the other parts of the ivy, they are toxic. You can use it for soap or to catch fish. My Dixie wrecked. You can use this stuff as fish poison, but I think the name poison already tells you. Stay away from it, from every part, including the fruit. This cliff, which is right here in the middle of this residential area, is remarkable in many ways. One of them is it's covered with a lot of edible stuff. Blackthorn, the stuff with the flowers which are already disappearing. Black locust, where the fruits are toxic but the flowers are edible. Then here we have some elm, where you're apparently supposed to fry the fruits. Yeah, those yellowish greenish things are the fruits, to fry them in fat and eat them. But what I'm looking for now are the goji berries. Actually, in mild winters, well, those here are particularly big and sweet and tasty goji berries. Well, actually there are also roses with edible rose hips here. And goji berries survive here in mild winters. However, guess this winter was not mild enough. Nothing survived here, and those are quite small. I wonder if they even got ripe. I hope to get at least 3 or 4 of the tasty goji berries. Want to taste if they are still as tasty as the ones in autumn. But no, the winter was too harsh. The leaves are developing well. I guess the winter killed off all the fruits. An old construction site, and right next to it hops. Yeah, the name of the plant is hops. This thing gives beer its taste. Without hops, beer would be actually quite sweet. But the bitterness and the flavor come from hops, from the fruits of hops. However, the fruits appear in summer and autumn. So what do we do with the hops now? Well, we can eat the very young stems as a sort of asparagus replacement. Actually, they're incredibly expensive. Can get up to thousands of euros a kilogram. Those are already slightly tough. You're actually supposed to eat the ones which are buried under the leaf litter and stuff. Those are good, but a little bit tough. But the pale bleached ones under the leaf litter, they are the really expensive ones. Let's see if we can find some. This is wild hops, by the way. Same species as the cultivated hops. Oh, I forgot to say hops. The same species as the cultivated hops, but yeah, the wild form. And here is a young one. This is the expensive stuff. Not bad, except for all the dirt. I should find an area with a lot of hops and leaf litter and harvest a lot of those super fancy hops sprouts. Silver berries. The first fruit ripening in Germany. Sometimes it ripens in January and April. Yeah, April is prime time. Here, a little bit hidden in the shade, so they are still unripe fruits. Look at those things, folks. Those are not from last autumn. Those ripened in winter and spring. Look at this. So many silver berries. The taste is a strange mixture of sour, sweet and salty. The seed is soft and fibrous that you can actually chew it. Get out the most nutritious part. Good stuff. Good stuff. After a mild winter, the ornamental apples on this tree would still be good. But now, I guess they are all frozen. But I have silver berries, so I'm happy. Each way tastes different because despite most of them being the same color. Those wrinkled ones are, well, quite sweet and salty, while the most plump ones are more sour. Good stuff, folks. By the way, that's what they look from the inside.